one of the big value propositions of all of these features that you just outlined is the fact that it brings a really flexible solution to the customers that they're speaking with. Fidel, if you could expand on that a little bit, that would be great.
Absolutely. So you see an example here in front of you. It's a 1x4 high. You notice that the monitors are not touching each other. So you have a lot of flexibility in not only the resolution, the cropping, the rotation value of each monitor, but you can create physical distances in between the monitors that you can account for within the configurations of QuadHead2Go in order to build very interesting, very diverse, and very visually appealing video walls.
That's great. That kind of flexibility really allows it, back to what we were talking about earlier, fit into many different applications. You know, if we're talking about education or even a house of worship, it's not always going to be the most creative display that they're looking to build. But if you're getting into digital signage in retail or fashion or something like that, they're going to be much more creative on the artistic walls that they're going to expect to be able to create from this product.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's so much flexibility. The way it's set up to install, you can just set and forget the product. Once it's configured, it's ready to go. You don't need to touch it again.
And that pulls us up to the ease of use application that we're talking about here. You know, it's one thing to offer a flexible product. When you can offer a flexible product that's actually easy to use, that's kind of the win-win across the board. And one of the reasons we're really excited about the QuadHead2Go. Fidel, do you want to just expand upon just its ease of use and capability and exactly what that means to our dealers and the customers they're going to be speaking with?
Absolutely. So the product comes already configured with 15 configurations, what we call 15 rectangular configurations: 2x2, 1x4, 1x3, 1x2, 2x1, 3x1, and 4x1. That gets you to 14. And then you do ×2 for portrait and landscape configurations. Okay. That gets you to 14. And then you get to clone. That's the 15th configuration. So the product comes already configured. You don't actually need to touch the software. Just with the touch of the buttons on the hardware, you can get up and running very, very quickly. If you want to move to an artistic configuration, like you mentioned with digital signage and retail, that's when you really need the software. But you have both options available to you. You don't need to necessarily touch the software to be able to install it.
So while we're on that subject, let's talk about these hardware controls. You'll see on the unit I have right here in front of me, Oliver, if we could bring that into frame, that there are 3 buttons right on the front of the unit here. Each one of these hardware buttons has a specific function. Fidel, why don't you walk us through what each of these buttons do?
Absolutely. Button 1 is what we call an input cycler. Now, a lot of customers go, wait a minute, input cycler, you said there's only one input. That's true, but what if your source is not ready? What if your source is not available and you still want to go ahead with the installation or the configuration? You can load images from the product itself, be it a logo, be it nature or bird images, for example, or a bezel pattern that lets you set up and align your monitors accordingly. Just by pressing button 1, you can cycle through all these different images that are available to you, and at one point cycle back to the input once it's available to you. Button 2 is what we call a configuration cycler. Like I mentioned earlier, the product comes pre-configured with 15 configurations. You can modify these configurations or add to them, delete them in software. Whatever the case may be, once you set the configurations, you save all these configurations on the product. These configurations can be just toggled using the button. So you could say, I want to go from a 2x2 to a 4x1, or I don't like this, I need to adjust the bezel, switch to the next configuration, and so on. All that is saved on the product. And just with the toggle of a button, you can switch between different configurations that are available to you.
Great.
And the third button is really just an information provider. Sometimes in the field, things don't go as smoothly and you want to figure out quickly what's happening. So the third button tells you, for example, what is the IP address of my product? What is the resolution that's detected at the input? Resolution detected at the output? Do I have bezel turned on or off? Is HDCP detected? Anything that lets you troubleshoot any small issues that you may have during the installation.
I would imagine that button becomes very important when you are out in the field and you need to make sure that the product is set up properly and operating properly.
Absolutely. So it's very important to have this functionality. And what we actually did is by pressing button 3, the third button is actually the only button that requires manual intervention to be taken down, because the QuadHead2Go may be very far away from the monitor. So you want to be able to press it, have a chance to walk back, look at the information before pressing it and taking down the information again.
Okay. That makes sense.